Hello and welcome. This discussion, brought to you by the team at Advantax Accountants, is all about getting you up to speed on the UK tax changes for 2025-26. We're going to break down exactly what's ahead. So let's jump right in with a question I think a lot of us are asking. Are you feeling the pinch? Does it feel like you're paying more in tax, even if your salary hasn't really gone up? Well, I'm here to tell you you're not imagining things, and we're about to find out exactly why that's happening.
The main reason behind this feeling has a name. It's called fiscal drag. Now, you can think of this as a kind of stealth tax. It happens when your tax-free allowances are frozen in place. So even a small pay rise, which in normal times would just help with the cost of living, could now be enough to push you into a higher tax bracket. The result? You end up with a bigger tax bill, but you don't actually feel any better off.
Okay, to get our heads around all this, we're going to break it down into 4 simple parts. We'll start with the big picture on tax freezes. Then, we'll see what that means for your paycheck. After that, we'll touch on a few other important taxes, and finally, we'll wrap up with what you can actually do about it.
Right, first up, the tax freezes. This is really the foundation of that fiscal drag we just talked about. And honestly, this is something that's affecting just about everyone who pays tax in the UK.
And this number right here, this is the big one. £12,570. That's your tax-free personal allowance. It's the amount you can earn before you start paying any income tax. But here's the thing. It was frozen back in 2022, and it's staying put all the way until 2028. That's a full 6 years where that starting line for tax doesn't budge, even while the cost of everything else is going up.
And as you can see, this is definitely not a short-term plan. This freeze also applies to the higher rate tax threshold, which is also locked in until 2028. And look, some freezes, like the ones for inheritance tax, are set to run all the way through to 2030. It's a long-term squeeze, for sure.
So, with all that in mind, what does this actually mean for your paycheck? Let's dig into how these freezes are going to affect your take-home pay through income tax and national insurance.
Here are the income tax bands, and as you can see, they haven't changed, confirming that freeze we talked about. Now, for most people, the biggest chunk of what they earn over that tax-free allowance is taxed at 20%. But with the goalposts not moving, more and more people are going to find their earnings creeping over that £50,000 mark and into the 40% tax band.
Now, with national insurance, it's a bit of a tale of two halves. The good news is your personal contribution rate is staying stable at 8%, but the story for your employer is different. Their rate is actually going up to 15%, and they have to pay it on more of your salary. The hidden consequence here? It makes it more expensive for businesses to hire people and to give pay rises.
Okay, but the changes don't just stop with what you earn each month. They're also going to affect your investments and your long-term plans, especially when we talk about capital gains and inheritance tax.
Let's start with capital gains tax. Your tax-free allowance here, that's the profit you can make from selling something like shares before you pay any tax, has been slashed. It's now down to just £3,000 a year. I mean, that's a huge drop, and it means that even people with relatively small investments are now way more likely to get a tax bill.
And for you business owners out there, listen up. The special low tax rate you can get when you sell your business, well, it's going up, and not just once, but twice. It's jumping to 14% in 2025, and then it's going up again to 18% in 2026. This means if you're thinking about selling your company, planning that exit has suddenly become a whole lot more urgent.
And what about passing on your wealth? Well, when it comes to inheritance tax, there are some really fundamental shifts on the horizon that you absolutely need to know about. So here are the big IHT takeaways. A really valuable relief for business owners is getting capped, but the real headline grabber is about pensions. From April 2027, any money you have left in your pension when you pass away will now be included as part of your estate for tax purposes. This is a game changer, as pensions were a major way to pass on wealth tax efficiently. Okay, I know we've covered a lot of challenges, and the tax world is definitely getting more complicated. But it's not all doom and gloom. You're not powerless. So let's finish up by talking about the practical steps you can actually take.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. Being proactive with your finances, having a plan, it's not just a nice idea anymore. In this environment, it's absolutely crucial if you want to protect your financial future.
So what can you do? Well, here are a few key tips. First, make sure you're using your £20,000 annual ISA allowance to let your money grow tax-free. Second, take another look at your pension contributions. Paying more in could lower your taxable income right now. For inheritance tax, think about making gifts during your lifetime. And, this is a big one,
Given those huge IHT rule changes, it is absolutely essential that you review and update your will.
The bottom line is this. In this complicated new tax world, having a plan is the best way to stay in control of your finances. And let's be honest, figuring all this out on your own can be tough, which is why getting some expert guidance can make all the difference.
If you'd like to talk about how any of these changes might affect you or your business, the team at Advantax Accountants in Uxbridge and Southall are ready to help. You can reach them directly for tailored advice on WhatsApp or by phone at 07985 689 912. Or you can just drop them an email at najm.saqib@advantaxaccountants.co.uk.
And finally, to make sure you stay on top of any future changes, why not subscribe to the Advantax Accountants YouTube channel for more great updates and guidance? Thanks so much for joining us.